Okay, we are on day 4 of our video series, and today is kind of like our practical day. So we've gone through all of our emotions, we've gone through how to deal with them, how to recognize them, what to do about them, how to create plans and systems to deal with them, distract from them, all of those things. So you have tons of tools. You may have to go back and practice a little bit more, and that's okay. But today we are going to talk about how to deal with food on a daily basis and what it is in your life and how to be practical about it. Okay. So, the first thing that step number one, always, is to remember. I'm going to write remember. Remember your food vision. So, remember we talked about like what is your food freedom vision, or what would it feel like to be free from food and all of those things. So I really want you to write your vision down, write down what it feels to have a good relationship with food to you. Have it available. Remember it. It's going to help guide you each day because you'll decide, okay, does this align with my vision? Does this align with how I want my relationship with food to look? So you've got to make sure that you have this vision. Step number 2 is to identify your weak points or your struggles. I'm going to say weak spots or struggles. So step number 2 is to identify your weak spots in your relationship with food. So let me give you a couple examples. There's a few different ways of looking at this. We have weak spots that are often times of day. Okay, so maybe we struggle more in the mornings, maybe at snack time, maybe like the middle, like the between lunch and dinner time, and then maybe like the after dinner time. So where are your weak spots in regards to maybe times of day? I'm just looking at my notes here. Weak spots with location. Are you constantly in the kitchen all day? Are you constantly at home all day? Are you around food a lot at your work? Or what is the location weak spot for you? Is it just like really easy to go in the kitchen and grab something? Is it really easy that like I know lots of businesses sometimes have like tables of food. And so maybe that's a location issue where you're like close to the table of food and it's just like calling your name. And then your feelings. And we've talked about this at length, so I'm not going to go too far into detail, but where are your weak spots in your feelings? Do you notice that you turn to food most when you're bored, most when you're anxious, most when you're sad? Like, what are some of your weak spots in your emotions? And go back and deal with them because you've been given the tools to do that. So, things like being snacky. I wish I could read a little better. Maybe you struggle with getting your water in, so a weak spot for you is dehydration. And when we're dehydrated, we want to turn to food because we want to like quench that thirst, but we don't always go to water, which is funny, but we just don't. I am very guilty of that one. When I'm like stressed or whatever, I don't go to the water, and so I want to turn to food to deal with that dehydration. So that's a weak spot. Maybe you have a night binge, maybe you have some sort of emotional weak spots. So I want you to think about what are your weak spots and where are your struggles most with your food, okay? Where's my eraser? Hold on. Okay, I want to have enough space so you guys can see. So that's step number 2. Step number 3 is to create your own guidelines. Or I also kind of like to think of other words like parameters or what's another word? Let's see here. Boundaries. Okay, so I'm not talking about food rules. We don't want food rules. We don't want the rule of like, I can't eat at this certain time, or I like things that make us want to break the rules. We want guidelines. We want some parameters to follow, maybe some boundaries to work on. And that's okay. You can have a really good relationship with food and still have some of this. So this is what's going to, you create your guidelines to help you stick to your food vision. What is your vision for what you want your relationship with food to be? And then create those guidelines. So let me give you an example of a couple things that I've created that kind of help me. Sometimes they change, sometimes they get better. Like they're different, and it's okay. Like it's okay to work through those during different seasons of life. One of the things that really helps me is when I get really snacky. I'll make sure that I hydrate. Okay, so maybe you have a guideline for hydration. And there's a couple ways to do this. You could have reminders on your phone. You could pair it with an activity that you're already doing. So if you're waking up in the morning and you have a glass of water, that's a pair. You wake up each morning, you have a glass of water. So you could pair it. You create that guideline. Maybe you have that reminder on your phone. Maybe you just every hour you just go and grab some water, or you have a water bottle that you carry everywhere with you. Whatever it is, that's like a really great thing of like creating a guideline, a parameter, a boundary around hydration to make sure that you're staying hydrated so you don't want to turn to food. Okay, what about maybe, and this is this is not a rule, this is a guideline, remember. I like to try to think of my snacks because I want to try to get more fruits and veggies in my day. And so I always just have a guideline. I just have kind of like a little guide for myself that snacks are fruits and veggies. So I really like that. It really helps me just know like when I'm hungry, I'm just going to go first for the fruits and veggies. And then if I'm still hungry, I can add more. But that's something that it's just a guideline for me that I really want to get more of those in. They make me feel good. It helps me reach my food vision. And so I try to make sure that that's like the first thing that I go to when I'm feeling snacky. And then if I have more hunger or whatever, then I look at that vision and decide what I want to do from there on out. Okay. What's another one here? Okay. Guidelines for meal prep or food prep. I'm just gonna, because there's a couple ways you can approach meal prepping, and I'm not gonna go into it here, but maybe you can create some guidelines for food prep and meal. Maybe like every Sunday night, Monday night, I don't know, you cut up a bunch of fruits and veggies so they're just ready to go, and you have like a container of dip. So when you're ready, you just pull it out and put it back. You don't have to cut anything up. You don't have to do anything. Sometimes, you know what I do? Sometimes I just buy the pre-made, pre-cut, pre-washed everything because I just know that I'm going to get more veggies in if I do that. So think about like, okay, I'm going to set a guideline that Sunday nights I'm going to meal prep, and I'm just going to like come up with snacks. Maybe I snack prep, or maybe I just make sure that I have like some really good food on hand that I can just grab and go, whatever. Whatever it is for you, create some guidelines around your food prep. And I want to talk to this a little bit more as well, is that sometimes we often prep food for our family, but we forget about us. And so it's really easy maybe to prepare their lunches or get their breakfast ready or anything. And then we kind of are left hanging. And what I want to do is go back to that food vision that you've created for yourself and think about like what do you need to create for yourself? What preparations do you need? Don't forget about you. I know it's easy to do. I have two little kids of my own. So think about how to prepare that food. And that's one thing that I really wanted to share is that mindful eating is not just for the present moment. Mindful eating is being prepared. It's thinking ahead. It's knowing what you'll do in the situation because you've identified your weak spots and then you've created guidelines and parameters around those weak spots. Maybe the evenings are really hard for you and you find yourself wanting to, like snack because maybe you haven't eaten enough during the day. So that's a weak spot. We need to make sure we get more calories and more food in during the day so we don't get hungry at night. Or maybe night is the chance for you to unwind and decompress, and you decide, okay, that's an emotion that I normally turn to food to deal with. What if this time I decided to unwind and decompress with a book or with a walk? And so I actually wanted to include this on here. Where is your weak point with exercise or movement? Do you have a way that you can create a guideline around exercise and movement? When I feel stressed, I go for a walk. That's the answer. That's what I do. Or when, I set a guideline to say I need to get 10 minutes of exercise in each day. And even if it's 9 o'clock, I go downstairs and I do something or whatever. Like I pull up a Pilates video on the YouTube channel or something. Those are really great ideas to help you create your guidelines. So you're going to have to sit down. You're going to have to figure this out. Okay. This isn't something that I can create for you. You have to create your vision, remember your vision, identify your weak spots, and then create your guidelines. Create those parameters around how you're going to eat. If you're bored at home and you just keep going for the snacks all the time, maybe you create a guideline or a parameter that's like, okay, When I'm ready for a snack, when I want a snack, I'm going to put the snack on a bowl rather than like grab it out of like the chip bag or something. I'm going to put it on a plate or a bowl. And that's what I'm going to eat. And I'm going to remove myself physically from the kitchen because that's where I get kind of snacky. And I'm going to eat that and I'm going to like eat it somewhere else or mindfully eat it or just be like, yeah, I ate my snack today. I feel really good. If I'm, hungry in the next 20 minutes, then I know maybe I need to drink some water. So there's lots of ways that you can go about this. If food is all around you, what can you do? Can you create that parameter? Do you need to physically remove yourself from the kitchen? Sometimes when we're home, when we're bored, when we're stressed, when we're anxious, we gather in the kitchen, and so sometimes it's just really easy to go. And so, how do we create that boundary of okay, I recognize that food is all around me. What do I want to do with it? How do I want to create that boundary? And then also, make food fun for yourself. So you set up. Gosh, I want to keep writing. I keep coming up with really good ideas, I think. Maybe so make food fun. Maybe you set intentional times and days to make treats and enjoy them with your family. So that's like something to look forward to rather than feeling like you're just eating all the cookies to deal with the emotion. You know that like there's an event that's happening around the food and it's bringing your family together and it's making you happy and enjoy. So make food fun part of your life. Um, I talked about location. Physically distance yourself. And that's okay to do. That doesn't mean that you have a bad relationship with food. It's okay to just say, "Hey, I'm around the food all the time. I want to just take a step away from it and just not be around it because it kind of makes me think about it and go do something. Go to something on your list that we talked about yesterday." So physically distance yourself from the food. Make food fun. I think that was kind of all the ideas my brain came up with right now. But think about those ways that you can reach your food freedom vision. And then the fourth step that I want you to follow, this is number one, important more than anything else, is I can't even write in all caps, I don't think. Be consistent. Not perfect. Okay? So remember, especially during these times, we talked about do you go into like the full on binge, like whatever, I've already messed up, so I might as well keep going? Or do you go into the I want to be strict and follow the rules and I can't mess up and all that stuff? And these are the all or nothing mindset that we don't want, especially during times of worry and stress and all these things, because we go on a roller coaster ride of like good and bad and off and on and whatever. And so the thing that I want you to know is that you can be consistent, but you will never be perfect. You will learn. You will have opportunities to learn when you do something that you're like, that didn't really align with my food freedom vision. Learn from it. Create another guideline. Find that weak spot. Create those stories for yourself. Create that vision of what you want to create, and just be consistent. If you mess up, try again. Learn from it. I talked about how emotional eating is it's a gift because it's an opportunity for us to see what's kind of going on with our emotions and our relationship with food and do something about it. So remember, be consistent, not perfect. I'm so glad you've joined me for all of these videos. I hope they're helpful. If so, please share them with family, friends, any other women in your life that need them. Let's spread this message and help women heal that relationship with food and be able to show up for the world in the way that you want to. That's really what it's here to do, is that there's our relationship with food is holding us back in some way. It's holding us back from becoming the best of ourselves because we tend to turn to food to deal with that emotion, or we struggle with this. And so it holds us back in some way. And I just want you to think about in what way is it holding you back, and how can you create that vision and be consistent with it. So I'm really glad you've joined me. Thanks for being here. Please share if this was helpful for you. And always feedback. I love to hear the feedback. If you really enjoyed this, please let me know if it helped. See you later.